Welcome to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times, sponsored by MSA Safety. In this series, we bring you sessions from the Emergency Services Show and the Emergency Tech Show 2025. Lancashire was one of the first police forces to adopt body-worn video and is now looking at live streaming to improve situational awareness and response. In this episode, hear the discussion about how forces can use it effectively to ensure victims benefit from a swift and effective response.
So tell us what the picture is with body-worn video in Lancashire Police and kind of your journey so far.
So we were quite an early adopter, really, of body-worn video. Many moons ago, probably 10 plus years ago, 15 years ago, we had the old head cameras, and they were basically a metal tube on the side of your head with a great big package, you would imagine. So as technology has developed, as of our cameras, and actually the need for more police legitimacy and also capturing more evidence, best evidence first time, is what's driven our kind of change program, where we've gone from having a handful of cameras given by specialist officers, our taser officers, our armed officers, right the way till now, where we're looking at we have got complete availability for all our frontline staff. We're over the 2,000 cameras currently. So a bit of a journey, really, and as the technology's developed, so of how we use it, how we apply it, and who uses it as well.
What problems exist that body-worn video helps address?
I think we're now in a digital era across all areas of society where everything appears to be recorded from all sides, be it CCTV, be it from individual auditors, reporters, whatever it might be. So one of the issues it helps address is around that police legitimacy, whereby we can actually now show what has happened, the conduct of our officers in terms of how they've dealt with the situation, but also we get the ability through some of our governance that we have internally in Lancashire to review the behaviour and adapt training where needed, both good and bad. So as part of our scrutiny panels, we will use body-worn video for members of the public to review, to see that public police officer interaction, so that we can then actually say, this is what the officer was dealing with an hour before, 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before. This is the whole video, and let's take the learning out from that and the feedback to the officer using the body-worn video as a real central piece.
So that already exists. Why the move to live streaming?
I think for us, it's the next natural step, really. If we go back to the old head cam, which is what we said, I don't think many of us would have envisaged that we'd have been able to live stream at particular types of incidents that we are. So as the technology has developed, as the need for more information, more situational awareness, more shared situational awareness to come into play, the need for us to gather information back to our commanders, back to our actual staff in our control room mainly, has basically made us look at this to go, why on earth would we not look at this as a process?
And what's been the response from the cops on the ground and also those commanders in the control room?
So Dave, I'll bring you in because I know Dave's been doing the trial. So we're still we are almost about there to press that green button to go live with this. We are waiting our new cameras, and as part of that refresh, it will come with that. But do you want to talk around the trial, Dave, that we've been undertaking and what it's brought up?
Yeah, so there's several different aspects for it from our perspective. So Chris talks about the commander side of it and the operational awareness, and that from our side. So I'm a silver commander, Chris is silver and gold. So from our perspective, we've now got a different viewpoint that we don't necessarily always get. So when we're creating our information, we run through the NDM, the National Decision Making Model, and you base it on what information you've got. So to be able to have live streaming at significant incidents, it now provides us with better information for me to make our decisions on, so that we can have a look at it. So from a commander perspective, to have a far greater understanding of what's going on, less reliance on officers relaying that, because sometimes even that can get lost over the noise, the sound, or even their interpretation of what's going on. We can make a proper assessment ourselves, have a look at it and go, actually, based on what I can see now, I can do A, B, C, D. So it can change your viewpoint and your decision making. So we've used for years CCTV, drones, but they can also be limited because CCTV is only as good as the coverage you've got. Drones is only as good as potentially the weather you've got. So there are instances you don't have that coverage and you are blind as a commander. Don't get me wrong, some cops quite like it if we can't see everything that's going on. But from our perspective, that information provides us the opportunity to make those different decisions. For cops on the ground, The difference for them is they don't necessarily have to relay some of that information, but the difference, like for example, is the officer safety. One of the big ones for body-worn video is actually the officer safety. It's always been that way from when we initially rolled them out. Much to what cops sometimes think, it's there to protect them as well. So when you can activate your emergency button and you can see what's going on, quite often we'll find the control room will be shouting out to an officer, can you tell us what's happening? Well, no, they can't. They're in the middle of having a fight with somebody. So actually, if you can see what's happening, you can then relay that to others to say, well, listen, we need to get more patrols there. This is what's happening. And then they can concentrate on what they're doing. So for an officer, it provides them with far greater officer safety. For us, it's about that situational awareness.
With every piece of kit a police force acquires, there's a multitude of options. I mean, you can just see it here, whether it's torches or batons or vests or hats or whatever. Talk us through the kit that you guys are using and how you've plugged it into your system.
So currently we are with Motorola, and that's been the best way to describe it. Really has been a journey. I would describe us as a well-informed customer. They may use other words to describe us, but we are quite adamant around what we want, which is the best for our officers to allow us to deliver a more efficient, more effective service, and in turn put that out to our communities. So we are currently on it's the M400, isn't it? We are on.
Yes.
And we're going to the M500, hopefully the back end of this year, integrated with our Pronto work so that we can then allow the officers more functionality around the clipping and the ability to do stuff more remotely. So I think it's, blimey, probably 10 plus years we've been with Motorola where we've used them. And we're at the stage where everyone has a similar ask. I'm not going to lie, a lot of the suppliers are doing the same things, but this is the next step to work with them to actually start pushing our body-worn video offer even more forward.
Officers are stretched, to say the least. It's a bit of an understatement. How do you try and ensure that basically they need to do as little as possible with this camera? They're not having to go back to base every 6 hours, take out an SD card, put it in, How do you make it smooth for them?
So we've obviously, as a lot of forces will have done, we had the debate around personal issue and or pool issue. We very much went down, having done all the numbers, that pool issue was the best way forward. And what that allowed us to do was have absolutely sufficient cameras, in effect, a third out on duty, a third on charge, and a third available for the next team to come in. So we were really clear around some of the evidence base we used to work out what we could do. I'm sure that for our supplier, they may have preferred a personal issue because that would have been more units. But I come back to that protection of that public purse, which was really important to us. And actually what we needed a set number, and it was quite critical that we hit that rather than having more surplus. In terms of the offloading, our officers now can begin to offload as soon as they come into the perimeter of our station. We've got Wi-Fi hubs set up across all of our stations that as soon as they drive back in, they've got the ability for it to start automatically offloading. And we are looking as part of the trial of the live streaming around these SIM-enabled cameras and to whether or not we could have that happening remotely at the scene to come back. But we would need to balance that against the actual costs and the data issues that might cause in terms of additional costs that we don't have. So still a work in progress, but we want it to be really easy in terms of the data. What we've also done as well is made sure that we've got the integration with Pronto. That's really key for us, that we want our officers to be agile. We want them to be out at the scene. We want them to be sat in whoever's office, front room, wherever they might be, and have everything they need at their fingertips to actually deliver the service we expect and our communities expect. And as part of that, that will be around the tagging of body-worn video, the completion of the forms, completion of statements, and creating that mobile office, which we're all but there with.
Can you go into a bit more detail on that? Not everyone in the audience will be frontline police officer or police staff. When you're talking about the requirements placed on officers and how body-worn video integrates with what they're expected to do, tagging, etc., you mentioned, talk us through how that works.
So the tagging side of it is each footage relates to an incident. So those officers then have to then say whether that is evidential, non-evidential. And there are a couple of reasons behind that, because then you've got your retention policies based on whether it is evidential or not. And we're storing a lot of information as well. So the more you store, the more cost there is. So you've got to try and make sure that you limit that. So the officer's ability to view the footage, tag it, and then go, no, this incident I've dealt with, I do need this because it's going to be part of an investigation. I've just arrested somebody, so I need that. They can then tag that so that when it is gone back to the station, it's already linked to that investigation. So automatically it saves them time because they've gone on their phone, they've done what they need to do, go back to the station, and it's already available to them. If you hark back to what we were talking about before, historically we were on CDs, so you were having to come back in, you're having to upload your footage, burn your DVD, put it into ERP. Then if you wanted to interview somebody, you had to go book it out, go check it. Now we're at the point where, as Chris says, we could in theory have that footage instantaneously. At the moment, I'll be honest, I don't see that case for it at this moment in time. The users don't tell me it. Whereas coming back to the station and automatic upload via Wi-Fi is fantastic, because then they can actually, by the time they get to a computer, the footage is there ready for them. So in terms of your time and efficiency savings, then if you've tagged it, it's linked to your investigation, you're already way ahead of the curve of what you used to be when you're building up those case files. But you can present that then to interviews, you can present it to complainants if someone's making a complaint, you can reduce your timescales for an awful lot of operational things because the information's there pretty much instantaneously in the systems.
So your cops, when they start their shift, they swipe their warrant card to book out a camera in the same way they do with a taser, and that's the end of the job for them?
So the pool thing for me, and I know we touched on it, so initially when our chief officers were rolling out this generation of cameras, they wanted us to go personal issue. They promised our officers, you're all going to get your own camera, it's your safety, you're getting personal issue. I convinced them that pool was the better option, because actually you literally just go, you tap on, you take your camera out, and it's allocated to you. The system already knows that's your camera. Pronto works, so the systems all talk to each other. And then if they come back in, if they've got loads of stuff, they can dock their camera and then take another one out. So if the battery starts running out, or if it's faulty. Whereas if you've got your own individual camera and it's faulty, you then, well, how have I got now? What do I do? So you've always got access to a camera. It helps your occasional users, special constables, CID officers, those that you wouldn't routinely say you need a camera, but you might use one. If you had personal issue, you probably wouldn't give it to them because it's too costly. If a pool option, whenever you need one, you can go and get one. And I think on one of our slides, we've got something around our maximum usage that we've ever had in one day for the number of cameras. And we know what that day was, but ultimately it was during the riots after the Southport incidents last year. That was our biggest day because we had cancelled rest days, so all our cops was operational, and we had sufficient cameras at that point to make sure that everybody had access to a camera. Whereas if you had personal issue, would they been charged? Would they not? So the benefits for us were quite significant.
Did you want to come in on that, Chris?
No, I think Dave's covered it really. It was about creating that evidence base. So we didn't just sit there and decide we think we can do it this way. We looked at maximum shift patterns, crossovers, time on charge, and we got through some of our business analysts some really detailed information and data to actually evidence that change in the chief officer decision. So that wasn't purely based on financial. I come back to what we said at the very start. This was about the right availability of kit for our officers in the right place at the right time. And we're really comfortable with the amount we've got that allows that to happen on a daily basis.
The way technology works, every year there's a new software upgrade, a new piece of kit that comes out, etc. How much does this cost Lancashire Police to keep ahead of the curve here?
So we're really fortunate that Dave and I have absolutely no involvement in the procurement and/or contracts, and that isn't a politician's answer. We are really fortunate in Lancashire that we have got an enabling services team, our head of ICT, and are also procurement officers who will deal with that. As Dave and I say, our role is very much, we speak for the business users from the ground up. We say what we need operationally. We then allow some much more skilled negotiators to go and enter into conversations around contract length and also costs.
Okay, going back to the kit, your average cop walking down the high street on a nice warm spring day, easy peasy. If they're in the hills, middle of winter, mountain rescue operation, thick gloves, noisy background, how do you find the cops deal with the kit in those kind of less than perfect situations?
So I was going to say, the kit that we got on this one, we've configured it, we've set it up to make it cop proof. When we talk, when we talk about how we're doing things, we do all the tests and trials, but it really is as simple as it's a big button on the front and you press it. Doesn't matter what you wear, and there's no confusions. There are certain configurations that we haven't played around with, like you press this button, you can do that. No, let's just keep it really simple for that exact reason. If you're on a really busy shift or you're out on your own, you just need to be able to go press and it works. And we kept it, the terminology we use is Bobby proof. We kept it really simple so that anyone can use it when under stress.
We applied the 2 o'clock in the morning test. So when Dave and I, that was some time ago, and we would be pushing pandas around. It's got to be user intuitive. It's got to be almost foolproof, and it's got to be able at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, after a poor day's sleep on a night shift that you know exactly what you're doing. And that is, as Dave described it, it's a great big square button that you push and hold, and the haptic alerts you to let you know it's recording. So simple is the way forward with this, because again, that user muscle memory, that dexterity required, if we're activating it in quick circumstances, we don't want something that's hard to deploy. Must be easy.
Without meaning to age myself, when I was in the police, the technological innovation of the time was the move from VHF to airwave. And the concern amongst the, shall we say, more experienced cops at the time was that, well, you're going to bring in this kit from an external supplier. We're going to lose our own radio workshop. I'll no longer be able to walk across the car park, hand them my VHF, get them to repair it, and I'll take it back with me. How do you find it works at the moment if a camera breaks, is faulty, you've got an issue, there's not an in-house team to deal with it?
So it comes back to our argument around the pool issue. If you work roughly on that third argument, we said a third out on patrol, a third on charge, and a third ready for deployment. If I go and scan out the camera and the camera's broken, all I simply do is tap again and take it out. The system will alert you and say, doesn't work. The way we've configured it is that when the officer taps their card, the camera is selected for them, so it will start to flash and vibrate, and that is based on the most battery charge, etc., and so on. So it saves someone taking out a battery that's maybe got 10-15%. The system tells you which one to take. If it's broken, it's as simple as a report to our ICT. We've got sufficient available where we can replace them. There's sufficient available at the time because we can't wait for officers to have it sent to them, posted, and then through our ICT team, it's either back to the supplier to fix or back through to themselves. And it's a seamless process. It really is. But I have to say, not many go through that process.
Cops never notice. The ultimate one is they just don't notice. They just go, pick a camera, and it tells them this one works, and they go out.
Going back to the live streaming, which we discussed earlier, again, in an ideal scenario, perfect. Crystal clear vision, beautiful sunny day. That's not the environments cops work in. It might be the middle of the night. It might be Notting Hill Carnival, big football match. Live streaming requires that data signal to go back and forth. You were talking about, as silver and gold commanders being in the control room, great to have all this information. Well, it's not so great if the information's 10-second delayed or grainy or just doesn't exist at all.
I'll let you, because you did lead on this.
I have done some testing on this one, and we are working with suppliers. There are some challenges around that, because it is around that availability of networks. So we've done some big events. So, like I said, Notting Hill Carnival would probably be a big event if they were doing it in the Met. The one that I did, it was with Blackpool Air Show. We have around 250,000 people there, and the network just doesn't work very well. As a result, we did have some challenges. So what we're looking now is, what options have we got to link it up to Starlink? What options have we got to link it up to council Wi-Fi? Because Blackpool are investing an awful lot around their Wi-Fi networks. The kit's there, but it's the configurations. So that's why we do the trials, because we identify that there might be some challenges. And then, fortunately, we work with our suppliers to say, through our trials, this is a challenge, how are we going to fix it? So during those really big crowds, then the network does struggle, but as does your mobile phone. So it's something that we're aware of and we're working through. But when you're not doing that, anywhere else where you get normal mobile network, we're finding it's really quite responsive. The quality is good enough to actually be able to see and hear what we're doing. The officers know what's going on. So it's just those challenges for that network.
And I think as well, importantly, it's a piece of kit. So like anything, your handcuffs may break, your radio may break, anything. It's not the golden nugget. It's a range of options. It's a tool that we've got to draw on should it be working. So we will plan and make our contingencies based around not having it, if it's not available to us and not working. And if it is there, then that can amend our plans. But it's like anything, really. Anything can fail at any time. So it will form part of the planning and the contingencies rather than that absolute rock bed of us relying on it.
One of the great crossovers between policing and journalism is that they're both industries rife with cynicism. When you told the cops, we're going to start live streaming your body-worn video that we only a few years ago convinced you to take in the first place, what kind of reaction did you get?
I think it's the narrative that's really important. And I think, policing UK almost, we have got so much better at explaining the why. So this is not a big brother. This is not us that Dave and I have got time in our hands where we might activate a camera and watch what someone's doing in Blackpool. Far, far from it. This is about actually improving our operational service. It might be, and it may sound slightly trite, it may actually help us respond more effectively and save lives, been brutally honest. It may mean we don't have to deploy as many people. It may be we can scale an instant back or scale it up. we've been really clear with our officers that they have accepted and welcomed body-worn video. As I say, it's a journey we've been on for some significant time. This isn't new technology to them. It's an advancement. Some of it is coming from our user groups, our working groups that are saying, we'd like this technology. So we're looking at things around the peer record, whereby we can set certain distances that if my camera's on, Dave's will automatically activate, etc. So again, we're taking out that human element where people may forget or people may not activate because of what they're dealing with. And this is all coming from the ground up, because we're really, really mindful that a lot of our change programs can be seen sometimes as change been done to them. And we actually want to do this with them. It's not Dave and I anymore walking around at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, which is a point I come back to. So we need to know what they need and how we can make their jobs easier, which is what we see our role. So it's, yeah.
I think we get past some of that cynicism as well around the trial. So by the fact you do the trial, you get people using it, and then they will then create the stories of, on this situation, this happened, and actually it was really useful. So what you end up doing is using them and using their stories to create the narrative that hasn't come from Chris and Dave, a senior boss that doesn't have a clue what it's like. We actually get it from those actual users.
This episode of the Emergency Services Times podcast is sponsored by MSA Safety, proudly supporting emergency services and first responders on the front line. At MSA Safety, protecting first responders isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We work closely with fire and rescue services across the UK to develop and deliver safety solutions designed to meet your ever-evolving needs. That includes MSA Bristol Firefighter PPE, trusted by services across the UK and beyond, shaped through years of collaboration with frontline teams. It also includes our growing investment in innovation and technology, from the connected M1 SCBA modular solution to our agile, fully managed service model that helps keep crews protected and ready to respond. But for us, safety goes beyond equipment. We believe in standing shoulder to shoulder with the people who dedicate their lives to protecting others, whether it's supporting firefighter charities, backing mental health initiatives, or showing up for community events. MSA is proud to be part of the Emergency Services family. To learn more about our work in the UK and how we're supporting first responders every step of the way, visit www.msasafety.com. With MSA Safety, when you go in, we go in with you.
Have you guys gone out and about with the live streaming on?
Yes, so we did it deliberately. We did it at one of the Blackpool football matches.
Yeah, we did.
Where I was the
Bronze.
Was I bronze? Right, so this is going back where I ended up wearing the camera, and it was Dave was silver, and between us we basically stooged the event in the nicest possible way, where we explained to the officers, there was all the warnings given out, we knew which officers had them, we spoke through it all, and then we gave them one of the tablets to see what we were seeing, and then to work out whether they could actually think of any changes that needed to be done. So we deliberately targeted events with our officers, public safety events, but involved them, which is the point we come back to about trying to change with them and for them as opposed to change being done to them.
And what kind of reaction have you had from the public? Many people are cynical about CCTV, or rightly or wrongly, they don't like that cops are wearing video cameras at all. Suddenly you tell them absolutely everything's being recorded and there's 100 people in the control room watching it.
So we're going to be really clear in Lancashire. This will not be live streaming all the time. It will be done in certain basically circumstances. So we still need to work and agree our business rules around when this will be activated. The scenarios we see it in will be large scale public order operations, public safety operations, firearm incidents, or our response to major incidents, be it flooding or something like that. We do not intend to in any way have this activated all the time, because for obvious reasons. Firstly, there's the issues around the privacy impact, but also as well the cost of that continuous stream, but the necessity and proportionality as well. We just don't need it. So what we're looking at, and it's still to be finalised, will be the circumstances where we can say, at this particular event, we will consider the use of live streaming, albeit again, even at a football match, it wouldn't be on all the time because it's just not necessary. So it'd be certain circumstances to aid our decision making.
I think what I've found from the public is they now expect us. You know, we've moved away from that concept that we're video and everything to actually, why are you not videoing this now? You've got cameras. So our legitimacy in terms of policing, they expect us, they want us, and that change again from the public is that's they'd probably go, crikey, I thought you'd have been doing that for years. So actually the public perception is not what you think is probably negative. It's usually quite positive.
Who's ultimately in charge if an officer wants to switch off their camera, do they have that autonomy, or does the control room say, no, we are live streaming?
It comes back again to the business cases, and it's probably really hard to give an example whereby that might happen. You've always got to be mindful of the victim wishes and the circumstances you're dealing with. But to take us back to the original point around the business rules, we wouldn't be looking to use it in those circumstances unless it was absolutely necessary. This would probably be more of a case of if you were to look at, say, a major road crash, that would allow us to see what's happening, what access, what egress we need, share that with other blue light partners potentially. It's those circumstances we're looking at, as opposed to, say, I don't know, a routine shoplifting offence where you're in the back store of some particular department. So really kind of strict conditions that we're going to look at. And obviously what we'll do is we'll go out. I know some forces are already in a similar position to us. We'll benchmark ourselves, see where they are, where we are, and then also just have those professional discussions around its necessity and proportionality.
You mentioned dealing with other blue light services there. None of you guys work in silos. How do you share material? Have you had those conversations with ambulance, fire, lifeboats, etc. about sharing material?
Formally, I suppose informally, yes, absolutely. The formal, how we will share, we've still got to work through in terms of those circumstances. The reality would be, if we're using it that major incident, we'd be co-located anyway and applying the JESIP principles of us all being together and working together. So what we'll be looking to do is have the ability for the commander on their laptop to be able to watch the live stream and share live with those key stakeholders and key blue light partners to say, this is the information that we've got. This is what we are seeing at this particular location. Fire, what are you seeing? Ambulance, what are you seeing? Coast Guard, etc. Pull all that together to get that real rich, full situational awareness, and then start making some decisions around our response and resolution.
We have, like one of our slides and stuff like that, we have talked about, but we're nowhere near, we haven't had those conversations yet. But once you've got the technology working, you're not a million miles off saying, could we do something with NWAS, NWAS is ambulance, that's our Northwest Ambulance, to triage? Because you could get to a situation where we know that we're one of the biggest customers for ambulance, we're often calling people. Could they actually then triage, use the footage that we've got and say, based on what we can see, based on what you told us, they can go in a taxi, you can go, you don't need to be there, so that saves our resources, we don't need to turn up. Could you get into a realms of doing some live triaging with them if we get the right rules and the right things in place? So nowhere near, but it does open up those opportunities down the line.
We've spoken a lot about your human officers wearing these bits of kit. Sometimes you guys are sending in dogs and horses, whether it's looking for a missing person or explosives. Have you considered sticking a camera on your dogs?
Yes and no. So to a point, the horses have a camera, but that's normally on the rider, so they will wear them.
Yep.
We are looking for our dogs. They are primarily our tactical firearm support dogs, our TFSDs. They have, it was called FIDO-CAM, I lose track of what it's called now. They have their own system, slightly more robust. I suspect we may look at that, but I think if I was to contact Motorola around dog cam, they'd probably think I've been hacked of some description, but we can pick it up offline. But
they were testing it last week. they are actually looking at it and we're doing it. So we are going there. It's just obviously still in the concept.
Slow burner for us.
Okay. What's been the biggest test for the live streaming system so far that you guys have dealt with?
I think it'd be the air show, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the air show was the biggest test. But obviously it did show a bit too much for it at that time because of the network. I'll be honest, we kind of knew that before we did it, and we kind of said it probably won't, but let's have a look. And that was the one that we knew it wouldn't.
So that was a network connectivity issue rather than a kit?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we know that because every year we have the same issue with mobile phones. So when we're doing it, we're running it with as an operation. I run that operation with airwave TAC advisors, well, because I know that one of my biggest challenges on that one is the network reliability, even for radios and everything else, because you've literally got hundreds of thousands of people in a confined space, all using their mobile phones.
Yeah. But what it gives us is the opportunity now to look for that solution. So how do we actually make it work? So we won't just stop there and say, it's not worked, it's too busy, there's too many people. We've now got to find that solution, collectively with our wider partners, be that the local authority, our ICT team, our suppliers, whoever that might be. We need to sit there now and say, right, what other ways have we got to ensure, if required, we can get the footage off? And again, that's the point of doing the trial, is to really test it, for us almost to try and break it, to work out how we can get that reliability and sustainability of the product.
You were talking earlier on about the kind of buddy pairing, so that if one cop activates their camera, the other cop's camera activates as well. What other kind of smart things can the camera do to activate when needed if the cop doesn't think of it?
So we've got several bits, and a lot of these, some of them we've got and will grow and continue. Some will come with the new cameras. So the peer record is one that we're really keen in, particularly when more officers arrive at a scene, and that is again around my camera being on and yours automatically coming on at a certain set distance. We're looking at the red button activation that's been tested. So on all of our radios, in an emergency, an officer can press this, and that will give you 10 seconds airtime. We want that to automatically activate the camera. And again, that could be one of our live stream options that we consider. We've looked at and we've tested what we call the holster aware. So for our firearms officers and for some of our taser officers, the automatic drawing of either a sidearm and or taser would then start the camera automatically. So for that dynamic situation where they come across something, we're trying to take out that need for the officer to remember. We obviously have the pre-record function, both audio and visual. So at the moment, ours is purely visual, which means 30 seconds it's continually recording and wiping over itself. But with the new generation of cameras, that will be both audio and visual. So it will allow us to capture maybe that crucial bit of evidence that may have been missed previously on all our cameras. And what we'll continually do is look out there, benchmark, and throw the challenge to our supplier and say, well, what else can you do with your kit? What else do we need? This is what we're looking at. And I suspect that journey will long continue with other aspects of technology we might want to lay onto our cameras.
What we'd potentially like to do at some point is maybe have very specific incidents. So, for example, our policy will say you must activate your body-worn camera for a domestic abuse incident. Right. It's probably not a million miles away to get to the point where an officer goes to a domestic incident, and the fact that we've got the geofence, the location on the camera, that the camera says, well, when you get there, it's going to automatically activate for you. So again, you take away the human element, and actually we will always then make sure that that is activated, because we can in theory say within that area, because it knows where you're going, it activates it for you. I don't think that's a million miles away from being doable.
So that would integrate with your Storm or CAD system.
Yep.
If it's tagged as domestic,
Yeah.
it would automatically start.
Yeah.
What would you love it to be able to do?
I don't know, because I come back to it that, and it's a bit like when you look around here, everything's wonderful and shiny, and everything is very worthwhile for those who are exhibiting, I should say. We've got to balance that against what we need, what's operationally fit for purpose, and also value for money. We have to kind of hit those three main criteria that I'd probably like it to do a whole host of things that might be unaffordable and might be on my wish list of nice to have rather than essentials to have. I think where we are presently is we've got a robust system that's easy to use that does all of our main functionality. I think any add-ons is something that we'd need to look and see a clear business case for, and then offset that against any financial issues that, or additional costs it might present. But the world is literally, your oyster around this. The rate at which technology is changing and the pace it's going at, we just need to ensure that we are changing in I suppose, as fast as we can, with that mindfulness of protecting value for money.
Mm-hmm. There is always that tightrope that's being walked between protecting the public and keeping the public happy. One of the most challenging policing issues in the last few years has been live facial recognition, tried in Police Scotland, tried in the Met, obviously, as well. Has that been discussed when it comes to the live streaming? Do you get people coming up to you saying, you're scanning everyone's faces and you're going to nick me for stealing some Post-its years ago?
It links into our wider sort of technological strategy, really. At some point, both AI and also facial recognition will be something that all police forces will likely want to look at. We are looking at it, but if you asked me, are we looking at a particular product for a particular application? The answer at this moment in time is that absolutely not. What we want to do is have a look at what's happening in other forces, see that benefit, and then see how we can apply that to Lancashire, mindful of all the points you've just raised around that potential community impact and also maintaining that relationship. So certainly going forward, we will be looking at all technology available to us, but at the moment we aren't yet definitively saying, here's our strategy to roll out a particular product.
Okay, what's next?
At the moment, the other one is the dash cams as well. So
Yeah.
We've obviously got the body-worn video. We're now moving into dash cams. Rolled out, it's near enough rolled out now. Using the same supplier. Again, the concept behind that is users understand the system. It all goes back into the same office, the same process. The purpose of all that is across the board. is it easy for a cop to use? And that's what we're trying to do. So for us, it's moving into that, and then how we integrate all of that so that we've got the same standards and processes, and can we live stream using that again? The idea being that if you've got pursuits, you will sometimes get a pursuit where an officer's telling you it's a low risk pursuit, and you might watch that and go, I think it's a bit more risky, I'm going to cancel the pursuit. So it will allow the incident commanders to sort of say yes or no based on information. So for us, possibly the next one is around the live streaming around the dash cams.
I think as well, we jokingly call it dash cam, car cam, don't we? But what they are is it's a 5-camera system. So we have that on the side of our vehicles. So what, again, for your traffic officer driving along the road, they'll have forward-facing, rear-facing on each side, and an internal camera. So what it allows us to do at the roadside now is actually bring that driver in to say, listen, you may have jumped that red light, driver may dispute that. What we have at our fingertips then is that undisputable, irrefutable evidence in the car to play back to them to say, listen, this is you caught in 4K ultra glorious Technicolor. You did go through the red light. Can we seek an appropriate disposal rather than potentially having to go through court for a significant period of time? It also allows the conversations inside the car to be recorded. Again, if that's contemporaneous interviews, if that is us having conversations around offences and reporting people for summons, that is then captured and can be uploaded in the exact same way, and it just supports the evidential burden. So quite a lot really around our cars. We've nearly finalised all of the fleet. I think we're only a few months away from that, and that's in all our response vehicles, prisoner handling vans, our public safety vans, so the great big, the riot vans in other words, and our armed vehicles and dog vehicles. So again, another real investment around making it easy for our officers who are coming across things on duty to get that data readily available and capture evidence wherever needed.
Fascinating. Does anyone have any questions for Dave and Chris about body-worn video?
We struggle to get rid of stuff, which is a massive headache. So I'm really interested in your tag about non-evidential. And I'm wondering what you put in place for someone to change their mind. Like, I didn't think that was evidence, but actually now it is. Or I thought that went quite well, but actually the public has complained. Like, what do you do for like business rules to keep it for a bit before you blow it away?
So we've got real clear policies in line around retention periods. So if it's marked as evidential, it's kept for however long it needs to be, depending on the case. Non-evidential, we've got in the background in our system where it's uploaded to almost that tipping point. So when it reaches 30 days, it's deleted and just keeps working in that respect. But at any point through that period, the officer could go back into it to remark it as either non-evidential and or evidential. The danger is, and it's that balance of having enough time to make sure something that wasn't evidential and now becomes evidential can be saved, really, but also making sure you're not having to have huge amounts of storage or significance around. So we're in line with national policy around our retention period, as most of the forces are, and we'll just keep it at that point, really, as we go forward. And if they change and extend or become shorter, we'll mirror that going forward. But it's automated on the system around that deletion point.
The challenge around the complaints is we say to them that if it is likely or could potentially go to a complaint, you mark it as evidential. There's never a perfect solution, and if it's not there because it's outside that retention policy, it's because we're in line with other national guidance.
Other than the CPS, your professional standards department must love this because it must make it so much easier to either throw out malicious complaints or deal with them appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned it earlier, we have our external scrutiny panel. So for our use of force and stop search, we have members of the community who will review that footage. Rather than them simply looking at a form and a log, you can actually play it, you can hear it, you can see it, you can watch the full interaction. So for us, it's across the whole range. And, absolutely, if you've got that documented interaction on body-worn video for PSD, that really helps either prove, disprove, or negate whatever it might be, because it's there, it's available to watch.
Yeah.
We use it as well for even just some quality investigations. We can go back and see whether someone has interacted as we'd expect them to do. Supervisors can review their staff. Within the dash cams, we use it for driver standards. So obviously if we get any sort of actions, I chair the driver standards board. So we'll do that and go, actually, they've gone beyond what we'd expect from their driver standards. It's not in line with our policy. We're going to take away their driving policy. So it safeguards us as an organisation and protects us and makes sure that we are driving in line with exactly how we should do. So we also use it for quality in terms of feedback to our officers as well.
Interesting. You said earlier you're moving on to the new camera.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
So the new camera is exactly that, and that's not to underplay it. It's as you would expect with like if you apply your iPhone sort of mentality, it's the next version with the new features. It gives us much more functions, as how I would describe it, available for us to integrate in Pronto. And as you would expect, there's been development around the lens, how it captures battery life, and all those other bits that through that tech journey, as the cameras develop, everything improves and gets better. So in effect, it's a build on what we already have, but with a lot more functions available to us and hopefully being improved battery life. Not that there's an issue with that now, but it's just that continued development around how long our kit lasts for and its robustness.
Have you had any other forces coming to you and saying, here you're doing this live streaming, can we buddy up with you for a week and take a look at how it works?
We all speak to each other, really, don't we?
Yeah.
We obviously have what we would class as benchmarking, so everyone will send out a request and eventually it filters its way through to the right person. So we will obviously look at other forces with other suppliers to see what they're doing and how it can be better. And we've had people come to us to ask us around our journey, be that, Police Scotland were one, we've had the Greek police, we've had all sorts of people come to us to ask us our journey. And we will tell them, warts and all around what we've found, our mistakes we've made, because ultimately this is around, for me, if we can save another force some of the pitfalls we may have found, that can only benefit them and save them time. So we all share and talk to each other.
And if they come and visit us, we'll give them access to cops. So instead of giving the Chris and Dave version of it and telling them everything's wonderful, we'll actually give them full access to the cops and give them the opportunity to ask the real questions that they want to know the answers to, and the cops will give them those answers.
Is the Police Chiefs Council interested in what you're doing?
I think so. Obviously, we attend the national body worn conferences. Again, we get all the information shared across that, so we're all trying to do the same thing in the same way. And what we all do is we borrow with pride. And I make no shame in that. If we see a force that's doing something really effective and we think that'd improve our service or our efficiency, why on earth would we not kind of look at it, take it, Lancashireize it, and then make sure it works for our cops and communities?
Please do join me in thanking Dave and Chris from Lancashire Police.
Thanks for listening. Remember that by taking time to learn from our speakers, you can earn CPD points from our partner CPDme. So do check out the link in the show notes. Our thanks to MSA Safety for their continued support for our podcast and to Smart Digital for producing this series. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to For Every Response, the podcast from Emergency Services Times.